everyone, welcome to Pearls of Eden. Thank you for joining me. I'm Marilyn Acosta, and today I want to talk about a dream that I had. I want to talk about identity because the dream relates to identity. So the Lord took me yesterday, you all, before we get into that, the Lord took me to Proverbs 21 verse 1 on yesterday. And it says, the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. And I think that that is just a beautiful reminder and encouragement to understand that God, he raises up kings and he brings kings down, kings. And it also helps us to understand that our prayers are powerful. And I told you this is a very spiritual charged political season. And it's important that we know how to navigate it. And that's what I love about the word of the Lord and walking with God. He gives you strategies. And in the dream, I'm going to just tell you there was a storm that was coming. But God gave his people the instructions and what to do and how to do it as they were going through this process. When other people were panicking, God's people, they always have this sense of inner peace. They always understand that God is ordering their steps. So as the people were running away from the storm, God's people were running into the storm. What does that mean? For me, it can mean a lot of things. It means that we're battled up, we're ready. Not everybody's ready to go and face the storm head on. But God's people, we have this strength that he gives us. The men and women that I saw in this dream were moving in alignment. They were walking according to his voice. They were not fearful to go into the storm. God was giving them the instructions so that they were very, very well prepared. And with those instructions, what did they do? They came and told the people how to prepare. This is what God's prophets do. They see something coming. They prophesy the part that God has given them, and then they instruct the people. Now, I'm talking to you today about spiritual identity because within that dream, I saw it was a couple. And I was actually talking to this couple because they were having conflict within their relationship. One was, all for Kamala Harris and her policies, and she just didn't see how one was better than the other. And then there was the husband who was so distraught with his wife's decision. And I think that reflects a lot of people in the body of Christ, maybe. I'm not sure, but that's the dream that I had. And so I'm telling her my story. I said, listen, I too used to vote according to my own understanding. I voted this way. I did this. I didn't have any other. So I totally get how you are thinking. Because until the Lord opened my eyes, I thought the exact same way. And she was like, really you? I said, yes, really me. And I began to share my testimony, and her heart began to open and warm up. But then we shifted to a next scene where it was a courtroom, and the husband and the wife were sitting together. And then on the other side, it was the other people defending their case. And he was just saying, he was broken. He said, I cannot go along. I cannot walk in alignment with people who want to castrate and mutilate children and change their identity. What was the theme of the court case? Identity. There's a lot of things that are happening politically that are garnering our attention, and maybe they are noteworthy, but you want to know what the biggest thing that I can tell from what the Lord has shown me, and especially from the dream last night that I had? God is concerned mostly with the identity of these children that they're trying to shift, our children. And so it took me to the scripture where it says, better to hold a millstone around someone's neck than to harm a child, a little one. And so I want to talk to you about spiritual identity, because it led me to search, well, I know what identity theft is. What is spiritual identity? And it says spiritual identity theft is a concept that refers to the distortion or theft of one's true spiritual identity, often leading individuals to adopt false beliefs, practices, or understandings about themselves and their relationship with the divine God. Here are some key aspects to consider. The definition. Just as traditional identity theft involves the misappropriation of personal information or fraudulent purposes, spiritual identity theft can involve the manipulation, or misrepresentation of an individual's spiritual beliefs, values, or experience that can lead to confusion, disconnection from one's true self, and a compromised spiritual journey. I'm going to stop right there, because when the Lord showed me that, it just perfectly aligned to the word that he keeps showing me. Identity, and the children is what he's concerned with. And there was a judgment, because this man's heart was broken as he was trying to relay why he felt the way he felt, why he couldn't be in alignment with voting a certain way. His wife her heart began to you could tell there was something happening. She began to be emotional, whereas before her heart was hardened. And what I think this represents is the testimony of God's people rising up and sounding the alarm to say, this is something that we have to be a part of. We cannot just sit on the sidelines. We cannot think that we're choosing a lesser evil. To God, this identity theft that's happening with the children, and with them passing policies to be able to mutilate, to be able to have sexual transgendering operations, because it's affecting the youth. Now you messed around with God. It's one thing for you to make a decision as an adult, but it's another thing for you to force this propaganda on children. That's where it stops. That's where the cup is full. And there was judgment. Now, I don't know how it ended for her, but I saw that her heart was definitely shifting. And I think it's important to share our testimony, but it's important, you all, that most of all, that we are very prayerful, because our prayers and our testimony, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And so I just wanted to share that. The Lord also, as I was praying, he led me to the court case of Solomon. You remember we talked about wisdom yesterday, and how Solomon asked for wisdom to judge righteously, because he was in rulership. He was in a position where he was making judgments, and he wanted to be wise, and he wanted to instruct the people with wisdom, God's wisdom. And so he came across this court case where there were two women. And one woman had lost her baby, okay? So in the midnight hour, she stole another woman's baby. I said, my God, what are you saying? He's saying in the midnight hour, things can shift, but also in the midnight hour, that's a time where people steal, where people cheat. And you know, what I don't understand is how believers are so naive when it comes to this concept. They say no one would steal. This isn't possible. You couldn't cheat. You couldn't take something so valuable that belonged to someone else and claim it as your own. Yes, you could. Because the Lord keeps talking to me about identity theft, spiritual identity theft on so many levels. But because the king was wise and he had great discernment, he was able to say, hey, I'm going to just cut this baby in half. And the true mother of the baby said, no, don't do that. Just give it to her. And he was able with wisdom to know this is the real mother, because she loved that baby so much. In this hour, we're giving birth to so many things. This election is about the souls of a nation. And I thought about that, how one mother would have to give up the baby out of her love and not wanting to see it harm in order for the rightful person to inherit the promise, that baby. But God is going to judge, and his judgment is righteous, and he's looking upon the hearts of the leaders. And may the rightful person, elected official, may they be the one to stand in the court, and may justice prevail for them. You all, this dream was just so powerful. The wisdom of the word of the Lord, it's just, there's so much for me to really just to analyze, to think about, to ponder on. But in this hour, we cannot think it's strange that people would cheat, that people would steal, that things happen in the midnight hour. One moment you got your baby and you're holding on to it. It's nice and safe in your arms. And when you go to sleep in the midnight hour, the enemy comes to sow tares among the wheat and to steal. But glory be to God. He sits high and he looks low. Man plans a plan, but God plans a plan. And again, I want to tell you, God always keeps his people 10 steps ahead of the game. And even in this dream, while God's people were going into the storm, they were prepared. They knew exactly what to do. And in one part of the dream, I could feel like this woman was aware of the enemy's plot. She knew exactly who was in her company and when they would strike. And she had all of the instructions and strategy and wisdom that she would need in order to dismantle the enemy. And I just hope this is so encouraging. I'm just sharing to you what I have. This dream is very fresh. But I pray that it encourages you to understand that God, we're not alone in this battle. That God is with us. And though we're going straight in, he's going to give us the instructions. While many people are fearful, they're running around, they don't have peace, they don't know which way to go. We do. And it can seem strange and it can seem crazy when you're running straight into the battle where everybody else is running the opposite. You're going right into the storm. Wow. Well, that is the word that I have for you. I want you to think about Proverbs 21, verse 1, because there's no need for you to have anxiety and worry. How will the election end? How will this turn out? What if this person gets in charge? Do all that you can do. Give it all you got. Pray, fast, do as the Lord tells you to do. Because in the end, you'll stand before God. And in the end, his will prevail. And we don't always know how that's going to look, but we have to remain faithful. We have to remain prayerful. Because in that dream, I do believe it was the compassion of her husband. It was the sincerity. It was prayer that shifted her perspective. But I just thought it was so interesting because we're going to be in a courtroom and some people think they're not going to be judged. But judgment has arrived. We're being judged as we speak. Something to think about, right? All right, guys. I love you to life. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.